Hi readers! Today we are going to read The Red Tail Angels. We're only going to read chapter 1 today, so I'm going to go ahead and begin reading and you can just follow along and look at the pictures. Okay, I'm going to scoot it up so y'all can see good. Okay, chapter 1. At 2 o'clock in the morning, the only sound coming from the barracks was the slow, measured breathing of men deep in sleep. Only one was awake. Charlie held a flashlight over the book on his lap, but his gaze was set on the photograph tucked into the crease between the pages. From the picture, a handsome man in suit and tie stared back at him, a mischievous look in his eyes. This was his pop. Now gray and retired, his father had sent him off to Tuskegee 2 years ago with a stern direction. Now, you show those men what it means to be a fighter. This is no small thing, the Army finally having us fly planes. Do me proud, but most of all, you come back alive, you understand? Charlie felt the weight of many people on his shoulders, but he had merely nodded and given Pop a quick hug. He ran to the bus, waiting for him, and refused to look back. He hadn't wanted his father to see the fear on his face, the fear that was coursing through his body. Now, as he sat in the dark of the barracks, Charlie felt that same overwhelming dread. Tomorrow morning, the squadron was shipping out, and despite months of training filled with countless practice missions, Charlie wondered if he was really ready. A man heading into war was like a blind man walking along the edge of a cliff. Would he sense and successfully respond to the dangers around him, or would one misstep lead him to his death? After he fell asleep, Charlie dreamt of his home back in Philly. His head filled with images of his old roommate at Penn and warm afternoons spent studying on the university lawn. A dedicated student and avid reader, Charlie was rarely seen without a book in his hands. And while this may have helped him graduate with honors and ace all of his written exams at the civilian pilot school, now it was also the cause of a lot of teasing by the other men in the barracks. On his first night on base, a hefty shadow had loomed over him as he sat reading on his cot. "Hey, Ace," came a thick drawl from above him. "That book tell you how you gonna kill some Nazis? 'Cause really, that's all we gotta know. All those other words, they're just wasting your time." "Well, as a matter of fact, this book," Charlie had started to explain before the large man cut him off. Yeah. Why don't you put that book down and come play some cards?" He reached out his enormous hand to Charlie. "The name's Antoine Douglas, but people call me Tex." Charlie had just assumed that Antoine was from Texas. He learns later on that Tex actually hailed from Louisiana and earned his name due to his size. "Big as the state of Texas," Antoine had said with a deep, bellowing laugh when he explained his nickname to Charlie. People often cowered in Tex's presence, and he used this to his advantage. But thankfully for Charlie, Tex had taken a liking to him. He also introduced him to two other men who had become his closest friends, McCleary and Smith, whom everyone called Mac and Smitty. Now, at 0600 sharp, the four men stood at attention while the rest of their squadron awaited orders. There, tightly packed bags lined the floor behind their feet. Suddenly, Colonel Lewis barged through the front door of the barracks and walked along the line of men, inspecting their appearance. "All right, men," he barked. "Here's what's going to happen. In 2 hours, we'll get on the train for New York, and from there we'll board Mariposa, destination Africa. Our intelligence tells us that the Germans have some AA emplacements on an island of a short flight away that could put our bombers in danger. We need to take them out. It's time to quit playing pretend and get into this thing. I think you all know the significance of this mission goes beyond our primary objective. You will be the first all-black air unit going into active combat. Let's show the world how ready we are." Just as abruptly as he had entered, the colonel turned and left. The men relaxed their stance and broke from the line. "Ah, good old New York, my old hometown," Smitty started to sing, adding lyrics as he went. Too bad we won't have time to see the city. I could show you all my old hangouts. You mean like your parents' basement? Asked Tex. Very...
Hey guys.
Sorry about that. Very funny, big man. No, I'm talking about some high-class establishments, good food, and even better music. Things a roughneck like you wouldn't know anything about. To distract Tex from the insult, Mac quickly changed the subject. What I want to know is why they are sending us to Africa. It's darn hot there. Y'all can barely handle this Alabama heat. What do you think that Africa heat will do to you? Smitty, you'll be a sweaty mess. Charlie and Smitty laughed and then gave each other a serious look, knowing he was right. Mac was used to the sticky southern weather from his days growing up on a farm in Georgia, but the long, hot days of Alabama summers had been torture for the rest of them. Charlie couldn't help but wonder if the African heat might do them all in before the enemy even had a chance. The enemy, thought Charlie. Here in Alabama, the enemy almost seemed like a mythical creature, but once they were in Africa, everything that they had been training for would become a reality. All right, I hope y'all enjoyed chapter 1. Throughout the week, we will finish reading more of the book, but go ahead and head on over to the next slide to see what you got to do next.